Hello again and welcome back to the last video of Scott and Wanda's World this year. So yeah, it's New Year's Eve. First off, thank you for everybody that subscribed to the channel, unsubscribed to the channel, thumbs up, thumbs down, left a comment, good, bad, indifferent. Any interaction on the channel is most welcome. There's some ups and downs this year. It's been a challenging year, privately and on the channel. But we're still here, still battling away. And today, so thank you. Last video of the year, and me and Wanda want to wish all of you a very happy New Year. Hopefully 2023. I think it's going to start off a bit shaky for a lot of people, but hopefully we'll all come through and we'll persevere and don't get bogged down in the negativity and shit, and just hope it's a good one and a peaceful one for everybody out there. Thank you to everybody that watched the other version of this, so the 10 worst beers of the year. Actually thoroughly enjoyed making the worst beers of the year, going back through some old videos of some absolute dross that I've tried in the name of, I hope, at least a smidgen of entertainment. It's cost me a fortune, but it is what it is, and I enjoy doing it. I still do it for fun, and I hope you get a little bit of fun back from me as well. This is beers of the year. So my 10 beers of the year. Now again, it's the caveat of these are only beers that I've tried on the channel. Obviously I've tried other beers off the channel. Could some of them have hit this list? Yeah, quite possibly. But that's not fair on you guys. So I've gone back and gone through a year's worth of beer reviews and come up with, been quite tricky as well. And I'm going to be very, very honest. My number one and number two, I still don't know. Having sat down, I flip and flop on this, on which one's going to be number one. I don't know still what my number one and number two are. I know what they are. I don't know which way round they're going to be. As with the worst, this one's going to be quite as entertaining as the other one, to be fair, because these are certainly, for my eyes, the best beers I've had on this channel this year. So there's not a lot of joking around. It's just going to be factual. There are a couple, there's four actually, four honourable mentions, and then we'll get into the 10 list. Number one in honourable mention, I can go with Vocations, special release into Tesco. There's not many, in fact there's not any supermarket beers in my list. Vocation Brewing, mint chocolate stout, barrel aged, is an honourable mention. 12% ABV beer. I've had a couple. One was the one I reviewed on the channel was very, very good. The one I had privately wasn't so good. Wanda bought me this one for Christmas. I haven't felt particularly well, so I haven't had that yet. I'm hoping it's a good one. But for £4 for an Imperial Barrel Aged Stout in your local supermarket, can't go wrong. Bugger off you! No dumping on the bloody decking. This came very close. This sat in the top 10 for a little while actually. It's only recently been knocked out by couple, and it's from Utopian. Don't do a great deal of lager on the channel, but this unfiltered British lager is absolutely exceptional. I picked this up as part of the £15 beer musketeer, the bottle shop challenge that I did back in sort of March time, I think. Very cheap, £2 something, maybe £2 something a can. If you like a lager, a British lager, get yourself over to Utopian's website, because they're absolutely, the ones I've had were fantastic. This came very close as well. Everyone knows I like my West Coast IPAs. There might be one or two in the top 10. And this was from Elusive Brewing and Bianca Road, and it was their Game Over. Nothing to say about that. Go and watch the review. Stonking beer. And the last one of the honourable mentions came from a good friend of mine, Pondering Mark, or Mark the Pondering Man as he used to be. He sent me and Wanda a couple of beers. Unfortunately, she opened the stout before I could get to it because she was feeling poorly at the time. But this was Pure Magic, which was a double dry hopped IPA Overtone Brewing, very rarely do you get anything bad from Overtone. So yeah, that was an absolute belter. 8.5% I think it was. Just storming. So we're into the top 10. Coming in at number 10 from Elusive Brewing and Brew York is a collab beer from them, and it's a West Coast IPA, and it was their Oregon Eagle West Coast IPA. I've got some notes on my laptop, so I'm careful to try and get everything in that I can. So I reviewed this on the 6th of September. It's a collab West Coast IPA with Brew York and Elusive, as I said. The grist and hop timings from Oregon Trail, which is Elusive's West Coast IPA, and the hop varieties from Big Eagle from Brew York. And it's just, it's phenomenal. It's a lovely, lovely beer. Anyone that knows me knows I like a West Coast IPA. So there's a huge bitterness. It's piney. It's hoppy. It's just fantastic. I think I've had a couple of them now over the last couple of months. It does everything. 6.1%, so it's in the right ballpark for where I want it to be as an ABV. And I can't find fault with that beer. It was about a £5 a can. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. Oregon Eagle coming in at number 10 from Elusive Brewing and Brew York, and it's their West Coast IPA. Stormer. If you've tried that, then let me know in the comments. Number 9 is Life and Death Gold Edition. So back in July, Vocation Brewery released a set of 3 beers that were to commemorate the 7th anniversary of Life and Death. They released a session edition. I think I've still got more over here. Session edition, a hazy edition, and the gold edition. Gold edition came in at 7.1% ABV, I do believe. 7.4% ABV, do apologise. And it was just a ramped up hop bomb of Life and Death. One of the seminal beers into British craft beer that's changed a little bit over time. This one, pine in abundance, caramel flavours. It was resinous, huge grapefruit notes in there. It was dank, just a really nice, lovely beer. But lovely version of Life and Death, and huge bitterness. On the note of 7th anniversary beers, these 3 beers, so Vocation, the Life and Death Gold Edition, the hazy edition, and the Session Edition, came in at, I think it was about £14, something like that, for all 3 beers as an anniversary beer. I'd like to point out, don't know where the bottle is, that what can be done, Brewdog, right, 15%, worst beer of the year. 3 of these beers for the same price as that monstrosity. So it can be done. So number 9, Life and Death Gold Edition from Vocation. I really liked it. Number 8 is a beer that was sent to myself and Wanda very recently. Friend of the channel, and friends of the channel, I do apologise, Andrew and Deanne, Beery Beast in the East on Instagram, sent us a message, can I send you a beer? You've probably seen the review, and it was from the Black Irish Brewery, and it was I Push My Fingers into Mince Pies. Now, I want to caveat something with this, because could it have been higher? Possibly. The reason it didn't sit higher, and it's on a personal note, is that I wasn't very well when I reviewed it. And I think if I'd have reviewed it when I was feeling slightly better, it might have pushed up slightly higher in this breakdown of my top 10. Reviewed on the 17th of December. It's a Slipknot inspired Imperial Barrel Aged Stout. I Push My Fingers into My Eyes, I believe, is a line from Duality by Slipknot. It was basically an alcoholic very boozy, alcoholic mince pie in a tin. It was lovely, complex flavours, massively moving. Wanda wasn't keen on it, but for me it was lovely. It was a lovely beer. I should have. I'm going to be completely honest. I should have saved it for when I was feeling slightly better, because I would have probably enjoyed it even more. But sitting comfortably in the top 10, I pushed my fingers into mince pies from Black Iris Brewery in Nottingham. Oh yeah, number 7. Everyone knows I like a West Coast IPA, and there's not many breweries that are more West Coast than where number 7 comes from. One of the finest breweries in the world, somewhere I'd absolutely love to go to. I picked this up. Dean was coming down. Dean's beer reviews, my friend. If you don't go support Dean, go and give him some love. He was coming down, and I picked up Torpedo, Dankful, this, and might have been something else. Didn't realise that he was bringing this one down as well. But anyone that knows me knows I like West Coast IPA. This one came out for their Halloween sort of thing. It's a limited edition release, and it's West Ghost IPA. Coming in at number 7, and this comes in at 7.2%. Love the Pac-Man can art. It's absolutely fantastic, and as I expected, the beer within the can. If Sierra Nevada can't brew a decent West Coast IPA, then we're all in trouble. Reviewed on the 30th of November. Picked up a few beers to do with Dean when he was down. Completely missed that he picked this one up. Released around Halloween. Released by one of the best breweries in the world. It's huge pine, zesty, marmaladey. It was. Go back and watch it. It was my easiest review of the year. Just absolutely phenomenal. I wish I picked up more, because I think it sold out sort of shortly after that. But anything from Sierra, that's not actually true, because the Dankful, it was like Horlicks in a glass, sadly. But this one, West Coast IPA, easily sits in my top 10. Number 6 is from one of our local breweries. One I do probably the most beers from, for no other reason. It's just the closest brewery to us. Done some very good beers this year. This one stood out for the style and the can art. The can art is probably my favourite can art of any beer I've had this year, and possibly ever on the channel. It's Disturbance in the Fence by Staggeringly Good in conjunction with Emperor's Brewery. Now that can art is just phenomenal. Star Wars tinged with Jurassic Park. What is not to like? An export India Porter, coming in at 8.8%. I've had it on tap. I've had it on can. It's lovely. Basically, a very hopped up stout, if you like, or a black IPA. Chocolate, roasted malts mixed with citrus hops. Chocolate flavours, huge pine, citrusy, roasted malt, bitter, fucking banging. It looks a bit muddy in the glass, put me off ever so slightly, but it just proves that what it looks like doesn't always matter. As did the Overtone beer I did last year, and again Mark sent me, which was, I can't remember what it was called, but it looked like a muddy puddle from fucking Peppa Pig. This Disturbance in the Fence is an absolute belter of a beer. If you've tried it, I think it was on Trembling Madness. If you've tried it, let us know. Easily another one that sits comfortably within my top 10. And now into top 5 beers of the year, and a brewery for me that's become a firm favourite, and I know they're a firm favourite of Wanda's as well, which is really important. Down in Brighton, Unbarred do just a rock solid brewery. Anything that comes from Unbarred generally you know it's going to be fantastic. This beer is released every year, I believe. I don't know how many incarnations of it there have been. My mate Barry Hodges, Scutter's Rule over on Twitter, says to me this is the best version of it that they've released this year. And it's their Stoutzilla. Imperial Stout. Again, can art. I defy anything. There's been some phenomenal can art this year on beers. So Stoutzilla, reviewed on the 25th of November, released annually by Unbarred in Brighton. This is their Mammoth Stout, Stoutzilla, coming in at 10% ABV. Coffee, chocolate, vanilla in abundance, caramel. Spoken to my mate Barry, who's had the other versions, he said it's the best. I absolutely love this beer. It is absolutely storming. Winter's drew in, it came in at exactly the right time, and it was a sipper for the rest of the evening. Well, I put, I can't, other versions, Barry said this is the best version yet. This is the only version I've had of Stoutzilla, so I can't comment on that. What I can say is that beer easily deserves its place in the top 5 beers of the year. So Unbarred's Stoutzilla Imperial Stout, roasted malts, cacao nibs, Madagascar vanilla, bourbon whiskey. That bourbon whiskey was gentle, it was nice, it didn't overpower. Cold steeped coffee, been layered together, building complexity and flavour in our Titan Stout. If you can get hold of it and you like an Imperial Stout, it's well worth tracing. Number 4. And this might shock a few people. I did some supermarket challenges, £10, see what you can get for £10. I thought, well, we need to promote some local businesses. So I went down to the Beer Musketeer, did some stuff with Jason, and came out with about 6 beers, I think. And one of them hit number 4. And it's from Verdant. They do a great deal of Verdant beers on the channel. And it's their People, Money, Space and Time. And this is I think it was, what do they call it? I think they call it like a table beer. They don't even, it's a pale ale. So it's a pale ale, and it came in unbelievably at 3.8% ABV. This beer, when people say, you can't make a beer under 5%, it's only good. I think it cost me a couple of quid. £3, absolute maximum. Recommended by Jason, the Beer Musketeer at the time, for being a phenomenal beer for a low ABV beer. Verdant are always dependable for the quality of the beers, producing high quality, hazy IPAs, and this is a great example of a British brewery. Flavoursome, incredibly flavoursome for 3.8% ABV. It was fantastic, hazy as you like. I've had some low ABV beers in my time. This one probably tops the lot. If you've tried People, Money, Space and Time, let me know, because I just thought for that ABV it was absolutely storming. It just shows you what can be done. You don't need a high ABV to produce flavours and a beer of that quality. Which brings us to number 3. And I agonise over the top 3. And I'm still agonising over the top 2. Number 3 is reviewed Christmas Day, actually, but came out Boxing Day. And it's this base. Stoutzilla 2022. Barrel aged. Imperial Stout at 11%. From the ever dependable again, Unbarred, made of Brighton. Barrel aged version of their Monster Stout, which came in at number 5. Completely different beers. Only 1% higher in ABV, but such a different beer. The trace bourbon and coffee in this is different level, and the vanilla gave it a real light sweetness backbone. Beautiful, slick and smooth. there is a hint of the ABV, giving it a really warm feeling. I really like that. Easily up there and deserves its place in my top 5 beers of the year for anyone. I opened this about 3 o'clock for the review, Christmas Day, and I think I finally finished it off at about 8:30. So I sat drinking it for about 5 hours. It's an absolute beauty. I know Barry's got one bottle, couple of bottles, but Stoutzilla 2022 barrel aged imperial stout, 11% ABV from Unbarred, is my number 3 beer of this year. I'll come to number 2 and number 1. What am I going to go for? Flip a coin, Scott. They're 2 very different beers. I'm lost. I don't know what to do. Do I go for a beer that I've bought again, or do I go for a beer that was a one-off loveliness? Number 2 in beers I've reviewed this year is one or two. I'm going with that one. I'm going to go with, it's from Unbarred again. Oh, bias. Fantastic brewery. I'm going to go with this one. It was at number 1. And then it was at number 2. Then it was at number 1. Then it was at number 2. Then it was at number 1. And then it was at number 2. And it's going to stay at number 2. And there's a reason why, I think. I've been talking to Wanda about this all week. Because I didn't know which I was going to put in there. We reviewed this on the 18th. Me and Wanda reviewed this on the 18th of April. One of her favourite beers that we've done on this channel, and one that if she sees anywhere, she's like a moth to a flame to, is the Bueno Shake Stout. And I don't think I've got the can, actually. From Unbarred, made of Brighton. Just a wonderful, easy drinking chocolate hazelnut stout. And then they released this. I don't know if they've released it years before, but they released this absolute beauty, the Imperial Bueno Shake chocolate and hazelnut milk stout. It was wonderful. I'll read what it says on the bottle, and I'll read what I've written down here. Aged in Buffalo Trace barrels again, so they're obviously doing a lot of Buffalo Tracing. For 9 months, building on the indulgent and decadent flavours on our Imperial Bueno Stout, rich and dark and milk chocolate, roasted hazelnut and vanilla, hints of sweet wafer, are further enriched with lightly smoked bourbon, finished with a velvet smoothness. It was wonderful. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful beer. We reviewed the core range Bueno Stout on the 24th of July 2021, and that became one of Wanda's firm favourites. We went to the brew house and kitchen. She actually emptied the shelves. We were there most of the afternoon, and I think she ploughed through the whole lot. They released the Imperial version this year in April, aged for 9 months in bourbon barrels, coming in at a sessionable 11% ABV. This is incredible. The chocolate and hazelnut are there in abundance, lashed with those notes of bourbon to give it a lovely warmth. The 11% in there doesn't ruin it or intrude. It actually adds to it. Even Wanda, that has a natural aversion to imperial stouts like this, and said she would drink it, although it would have to be over about 3 days. Just a superbly made imperial stout, again showing what British craft breweries are made of. Number 2 for my beer of the year. It's from Unbarred, and I'm gonna be honest. It's paper thin on this and my winner of beer of the year. But if you can get hold of that, do yourself a favour. It's phenomenal. So before we get to number 1, let's run down number 10. So number 10. Number 10, Oregon Eagle, which was Elusive and Brew York's a West Coast IPA. Number 9, Life and Death Gold Edition from Vocation. Number 8, I stick my fingers into mince pies from Black Iris Brewery. Number 7, West Coast IPA from Sierra Nevada. Number 6, Disturbance in the Fence. Export India Porter, Staggeringly Good and Emperor's Brewing. Stoutzilla from number 5 from Unbarred, just phenomenal. Number 4, People, Money, Space and Time from Verdant. Number 3, Stoutzilla, the barrel aged version from Unbarred. Number 2, Imperial Bueno Shake Stout from Unbarred. And number 1, my beer of 2022. And the reason that I picked this one over the Imperial Bueno Shake, and it is a nat snacker in why I picked it. And it's a beer that I've gone back to. It's a beer I absolutely love, and it's, for me, it's an absolute gem of a beer of my favourite style of beer. That beer from Elusive Brewing is Oregon Trail. West Coast IPA. Picked up originally in June. I know it's not a new beer. It's the beers I've reviewed this year. Picked it up in June, reviewed it on the 29th of June. Where do I start with this beer? I popped to Siren, actually, to get some stuff from Wanda, and Elusive were over the road. I was looking for Morris Man. I can't get it on. Their porter, chocolate porter, for weren't brewing that at the time, so I saw Oregon Trail West Coast IPA. I know Dean had already reviewed it and said it was fantastic, and ended up picking up a can. And it was just brilliant. It's just brilliant. Everyone knows I love a West Coast IPA that's done well. I saw Oregon Trail, picked it up, and I've never looked back. It does everything I want a West Coast IPA to do. It's bitter, and when I mean bitter, it's bitter than I am. That's how bitter it is. It's pithy, it's zesty, it's bitter. It's got a cracking malt base behind it. It's bitter, and have I mentioned that it's bitter? It's fucking bitter. It's phenomenal. Are there better beers on this list? Potentially. Is it my favourite beer of this year? Yes, it is. It is absolutely. How could it not be? It's an exemplary example of my favourite style of beer, and I've returned to it more than once, and that's the reason that it sits at number 1 and literally just pips the Imperial Bueno Shake. For those reasons alone, that Imperial Bueno Shake, and if I hadn't tried that, would steamroller this top 10. But this one, just for the fact that it's a beautifully made version of my favourite style of beer, makes it my favourite beer of the year, and makes it number 1 in my list. Do you agree? Have you tried any of these? Let me know what your beer of the year is. This has been harder than I thought it would be, in all honesty. It's been a trek. I hope you agree with my... I don't care if you don't, really. It's my favourite beer. But there's some absolutely belting beers in that list. Properly made, well made, decent breweries. There's stuff from... for me, the shining lights this year, Unbarred, Elusive Brewing, the stuff they're doing, Staggeringly Good are doing some good stuff, but there are some phenomenal breweries in those 10 beers. If any of those breweries are close to your heart, support them where you can. Money's tight, but they're going to go out of business if you don't. We've seen that recently. There are so many breweries going. If you've not tried any of these beers and they sound like there's something you try, please put in an order that you can afford and isn't going to break the bank. That will help these breweries out and help them continue making these fantastic beers. Yeah, it's a video that's taken longer than I thought it would take to make, put together and list. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed the channel this year. The content that's been on it might change ever so slightly next year. Slightly less content, maybe slightly less beer for cost things. But yeah, my number 1 beer of the year Oregon Trail from Elusive Brewing. The last thing I've got to say is to wish you all, and I know this comes from Wanda as well, a very happy 2023. Please keep safe, please keep warm, look after each other, be kind to each other, and we'll see you in the new year.